Hello and welcome to this edition of Minstrels on the Block, where we bring you the finest singer-songwriters in the Valley area. This week's guest, the Crown Prince of Shadowville himself, Mr. Will Dockery.
Hey, what's up, bro?
What's going on, man? Good to have you on the show.
Always a pleasure, sir.
So, Will, tell me about yourself. Where were you born?
I was born in, when was I born? Where or why? Okay.
Yeah.
LaGrange, Georgia, just right up the road a little ways, which is like in the upper echelons, the upper areas of Shadowville.
Nice.
I guess that would be the northern point of Shadowville. Actually, Tatumville, LaGrange, out by the... There was Chattahoochee River, but then it became the West Point Lake out there. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's so LaGrange, Tatumville, we call it out there.
So the hazy outlands of Shadowville.
Yeah, it's like the real upper North Highland area.
So what'd your parents do?
Well, my mom and dad, they met at a barbecue place, so that's why I'm really into the barbecue authority thing. They met at...
Make Sean proud.
I think it's Sonny's Barbecue in LaGrange.
Oh, okay.
My dad was in the Army. He was a World War II Korean veteran and met my mother, who was a Southern Belle.
Wow.
It was like, peanut butter and chocolate. It's like a perfect combination.
That's cool. But, so did he settle around here and they got married and all that?
He was in Benning and she was in LaGrange. And... basically, they got married and he got stuck here. But he's from the Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee border. Mm-hmm. Actually near Nicholsville, Kingsport, Carter family country. Really cool area up there. And so I get a lot of the rockabilly influence through the DNA, the rockabilly, bluegrass influences. Celtic poetry through there, because it's a lot of Irish and Celtic influences, and they're saying actually it's French, but that's all my detractors need to know, is that I'm really French, but c'est la vie, baby. Right. So
were either of your parents musical?
Well, my dad was used to perform. Like he was basically, interestingly, he would perform rockabilly type stuff, and early Hank Williams was really his hero. Mm-hmm. But he would perform basically sort of like I do. He was really big out in Japan. He could jump up, and they knew the music. The Japanese know Americana better than we do in some ways, and basically. He did a lot of music, and a lot of it, basically he was just a long-term cavalry military man, mm-hmm. and soldier of fortune kind of guy. But there's a lot of poetry involved in that sort of thing.
Did he play an instrument, or did he just have a backup band?
Oh yeah, my dad played guitar. My grandfather was a fiddler.
Wow.
And there's a story there involved. I've never told that story before, and I probably shouldn't tell it now either. But my granddad was Abraham Dockery, and he was a fiddle player back in the 20s and 30s.
Nice.
And there's a story there, but I think maybe I better save that for the third episode. It's not a good story. It's the same, very similar story to people that know me. My granddad was kind of like me, without the nice things, I'll put it that way. But so he was a great violinist, fiddler, and he gave it up and basically encouraged the children to give it up also. Encouraged the children not to take it up. It's sort of like, I think Johnny Cash probably had a song about it, but anyway.
So now as you were growing up, now you had a lot of the influences of the bluegrass and the rockabilly. What specific artists did you grow up listening to?
Well, I think we may have covered this in the last episode, but I never actually managed to watch the last episode. So, I guess my very earliest influences go back. I've said this before. People think it's a joke, but it's really true. It's Popeye and Hank Williams. Mm-hmm. And going back to my dad was really big really loved Hank Williams, really loved that early stuff. Wasn't very big on the Beatles, The Beatles were too British for him, and my family never cared for the British. No offense to the Brits, but there's a few problems there with my Celtic people and the Brits. If you've ever seen Braveheart and Rob Roy, you'll know the problem there. But my dad wasn't too happy. He really wasn't happy with Elvis either. I'm not sure what the problem there was. Could be I don't know, but he never really cared for Elvis too much either. But I think he secretly liked Elvis. But I think it was just one of those things. If you're a man back in the '60s, you weren't supposed to like that stuff. It's probably very similar to, I'm not going to go there right now. But Obama made that all okay. All right, let's go with it.
So now, what made you want to, now I know you've done more poetry and then you've taken up music afterwards. What made you take up poetry, music?
Okay. Well, this is the same story I'm telling. My dad was into the Hank Williams thing. And there was this film. What was that guy's name? I can't. George something. He played Hank Williams in the film back in '64 or something, and that was a major influence on me. Went with my dad and George. He's a famous actor. Really leathery skin. Not Ricardo Montalban, but George Hamilton. He played Hank Williams, and I think he also played Dracula. So yeah, he was pretty cool. Dracula was a big influence on me too. But Dark Shadows, Star Trek, all the '60s pop culture was just great time to be alive because it was just everywhere. I mean, it was just poetry was coming out of the TV commercials. It's like kind of free, kind of wow. Charlie. It's like the '60s were just a time period which was very fertile time period, and you really couldn't really be alive without being affected by it all. I mean, the comic books were great.
Yeah.
Every brand, every company you could think of was great. DC was, they were in the Roy Lichtenstein pop art, Andy Warhol thing.
Yeah.
And then Marvel had their gritty, realistic film noir thing going. That was actually Dick Tracy.
Oh, yeah.
But basically, Dick Tracy by the '60s, though, had gone really kind of interesting. And my dad was also a big Dick Tracy fan. And I can remember he was an excitable guy. He was just like he had, all sorts of interesting things to say, and it was like if I could remember half those things, I would have more songs. But that's a trade secret. I'm not going to go into that. But basically, let me roll this up. The Dick Tracy thing, it was like the '60s pop culture influence. Dick Tracy is a good example because he's a backwater example of what was going on in the '60s. Everybody knows what happened with Batman, James Bond, and these guys. They all just exploded. Dick Tracy also followed along that. He went sci-fi. Dick Tracy went to the moon. Not many people know that. They actually had They had a moon base in Dick Tracy.
Nice.
So he went from being like the dragnet detective to he had silos with rockets in them. And on the way, like we'd go to Virginia, Tennessee, to visit my Dockery family up there. And on the way, we would be riding along Sea Rock City, and it was a kaleidoscopic trip. It was like a montage of visions, in the mountains and all this stuff. But, we would like check out, we'd have games at Sea Rock City. My dad saw these huge silos. He said, check it out, silos like in Dick Tracy where they keep their rockets, It's like they had like secret. Dick Tracy this is what's interesting. Dick Tracy sort of got influenced by the Bond thing. Mm-hmm. Tracy he kept the hat, he kept the style, but he became like a Sean Connery influences,
Yeah.
Maybe Sean Connery mixed with Humphrey Bogart.
Cool. Well, I'll tell you what, let's pick it up in the next segment. We're going to go to one of Will's songs, and we'll be right back right after this.
Do it.
tonight. Not all of us can win. There we are, where we never really were. Here we are, sidestepping the future. Smile at me while you stab me in the back. Smile at me, make this moment last. Standing in fairy landing, wind stinging my eye. Centuries reflect from the river as you smile from the sky. Shark pack manifesto, no one makes a sound. Silent waiting for the tide snake to drag us underground. So the river darkens, so green it turns to black. With the sun fading away, the edge of Alabama on my back. Ooh. Here we are, the only place you'd allow. There you go. You're forcing my hand on this burning bridge now. There we are, where we never really were. Here we go, sidestepping the future. Smile at me, come out of the past. Smile at me, make this last. I'll make it last. Shark pack manifesto. You're a man eater, baby.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Minstrels on the Block with Will Dockery. So, Will, very, very interesting influences that led to your visions of poetry, things like that. Mm-hmm. What it led to, what do you have going on now? Tell me about some of your projects.
Well, I'm doing a lot of songwriting, as you know. Mm-hmm. Me, you, Jack Snipe, and we're averaging like a song a week. You know, it's like there's one there. And basically, you know, working with you guys is just really a great synergy going on. So, as always,
Jack's amazing.
Been with Mallard for like about 7 or 8 years now.
Yeah, something like that.
It's like a steady thing. Written a lot of songs together. Written songs with other folks too, Conley, and a guy named Rusty Wood. You may have heard of him. But the mainstay is the Shadowville All Stars, Will Dockery projects with Mallard, and Jack Snipe's Magical Touch, as you know.
Unbelievable.
There's like three. I was just thinking about it because I was thinking about, you know, I might be asked about songwriting or whatever.
Yeah.
There's like 3 methods for songwriting. It's like a question that I'm glad you don't ask, but so many people. Where do you get your ideas? Well, yeah, I get them from you. Keep talking, you know. But yeah, that old age-old question. But basically, it's not where you get the ideas from; it's how you get them nailed down on paper or on tape. Because ideas, ideas are the easy part. It's actually getting the stuff out there, getting it down. You know, I mean, I think everybody probably has ideas. You know, Everybody's got dreams. You know, but as far as dreams go, I gave up dreaming a long time ago. You know, as a great wise man once said. You know, and it's basically it's reality. That's, you know.
So is that what you write about now?
Well, basically, I really can't say what I'm going to write about. Like the last song, it's just basically, well, you know, there's like 3 ways we can write a song, and whichever way works fastest, that's what we go with. You know, there's the part I'll say, throw me a riff.
Yeah.
Throw me a riff, go in there, put the headphones on, and just, you know, the whatever sticks. It's like, you know, very much like the action painters, you know, it's like splatter some paint up there and whatever sticks is what we got.
Right.
And it's basically couplets, you know, it's like, okay, one thing about songwriting, different than poetry, you usually tend to want to make it rhyme. You tend to want to make it where you can remember it, so you're not standing there and trying to read it on stage and everybody laughing at you on the internet. Hey, he had to read it off a napkin. Yeah, well, I did read it off a napkin because I wrote it 3 minutes before we went on stage. But there's a bunch of our songs, some of our songs, maybe some are playing here. Silver Blazing Sun, sitting out on your balcony. Ding, 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 ding. You know, and I'm like, oh, yeah, well, that's, you know, basically it's like Mountain Tale. Woke up this morning, concrete, doom, doom. And it's basically, if you give me a good, memorable riff that catches, there's been a lot of those. You've done that. Conley's given me a couple of riffs, like the Wobble.
Oh, yeah.
The Wobble was interesting. We were this was like about 8 or 9 years ago. We used to go sit in the shed out in the woods there. We had this shed that had electricity and all the comforts of a nice motel room, and we would just sit there and barnstorm. And some songs, you know, I might have a melody. I might say, oh, well, you know, like Truck Stop Woman. But the Wobble in particular, the Wobble, I was saying, throw me a riff, very much like you throw me a riff. You threw me the riff for this last song, Over You, which I think is a nice country song, country rock, one of our first country rock songs. But the Wobble, Conley had that little thing, it's like, ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. And it's like, we were thinking, okay, now what is that? Is that a tossing words out? Because I said, okay, well, that's going to be, you know, there's going to be some great words on that, because that evokes it was a very dark period of time for me. The mother of my children, the grandmother of my grandkids, she had a sudden illness, and it just like, she's just, you know, yes, she's not gone as long as we remember. And remember it a little ozone stigmata style. But basically, not to get into all that, that's a soap opera. But the Wobble, it was just like Henry Conley just took one string and just whopped, and it was a wobble. And so it was like, well, the song was obviously the Wobble, because the song is just a pure wobble.
Yeah.
And that's one of those songs that just generates off of a nice little riff. And it's like, throw me a riff, and if it's good, then I can't pass it up. I got to get involved in that. Now, by the total opposite, Truck Stop Woman, sprang full blown, like the rose from Zeus's head, sort of thing. It's like we were standing in. Oh, I remember exactly. We were standing in the loft. A girl named Katrine was the waitress, bartender, redheaded girl. She's just a great singer in her own right. Well, she definitely would be a big star someday. But we were standing there, and I was thinking, oh yeah, okay. And there's an amalgam composite. What's the word? It's like a compost heap, you know, of ideas. And you got this big pile of ideas that just sort of like generate, and then, you know, it's like the rose that rises up through the concrete, you know. And there's your beautiful vision in the midst of the dank Shadowville, which is we'll get into that later. It's not called Shadowville for no reason. Yeah, sure, we love it here, but this is a really hardball town. I'm not going to say that, you know, it's Shadowville for a reason. Love it or leave it, you know.
Well, now, what is your vision for the future? What would you like to see happen for yourself?
That's a great question. Like dreams, I gave up dreaming a long time ago, and I really, to tell you the truth, I gave up visions. You know, if I've got a vision, I'll write it down and sing it.
Yeah.
But as far as what might happen tomorrow, what might happen the next day, or it's like the old Jewish mantra, it's like you wake up in the morning expecting the worst, and if something good happens, then you got a bonus. You know, and basically that works, you know. But that's all I can say about that.
I'll tell you what, let's check out some more of Will's former visions, and we'll be right back after this.
Sleeves so tight, she has a marksman's eye, maker's mark, tattoo, fire water, smile, leather shoes, but nowhere to go. Scattered in the snow, dice and coins scattered in the snow. Won't be long until I see your face. She's waiting in an undisclosed place. I've been inspired, banned from my muse. Poor boys all confused. This won't stick. Poor boys all confused. Salem town, she keeps her chin so high, dark and breeze. She smiles as I roll by, step inside. She looks for tables left. Time, nothing lasts except yourself. Wink at time, nothing lasts but yourself. Like a steamboat, she plans to roll on down to the Gulf, out of this dirty town. Copper mesh kept stuffed in a jar. Turning wine into water. Sharp, cold hit. Turning wine into water. We know him, ID'd by a ship in a trap. A kind of goose chase trip, whiskey fumes and stale gun smoke. Sung and drowned with all her night. sunk and drowned with all her knives and jokes. Sleeps so tight, she has a marksman's eye, maker's mark, tattoo, firewater smile, leather shoes, but nowhere to go.